Today we're going to continue discussing World War II propaganda. So if we go back to our goal to understand the various styles of propaganda used during World War II, and then we'll take a look at exactly what propaganda is. Again, we said yesterday that propaganda is information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. In essence, it is something that's trying to sway your opinion, but to do so maybe in the not most honest ways, usually by using different types of exaggeration, etc. So today we're going to continue looking at some propaganda cartoons. Today we're going to take a look at a video called What Hitler Wants, which is actually Soviet propaganda, which is anti-Adolf Hitler.
Хочет хлеб у колхозников отнять. Хочет заводы буржуям отдать. Хочет землю усеять гробами. Хочет свободных сделать рабами. Получит втрое за каждый удар. Десятки пожаров за каждый пожар. Получит штык, огонь и свинец. Получит фашизма бесславный конец. тоталитарно-фашистов змеиная злоба. Будь бдителен всюду, поглядывай в оба. Помни о коварстве врага. Будь бдителен, разоблачай фашистских шпионов, разведчиков, диверсантов. Соглашение между правительствами СССР и Великобритании о совместных действиях в войне против Германии.
So there you have it. Notice how the Germans were portrayed as evil and dark, which they were in real life, but especially the dark scenes to show them. Notice that they were also portrayed as very sneaky and trying to sabotage the people as the enemy of the people. And in that last cartoon, we even saw that they were daring enough to show the Holocaust and really show how Great Britain and the Soviet Union were fighting to stamp out the Holocaust. So something that we don't see in too many propaganda cartoons. Now, the Nazis also had their own propaganda. We're not going to focus too much on Nazi propaganda, but I think it's important to note that, well, we were coming up with propaganda, and the Soviets had propaganda. The Nazis, too, had propaganda. And this one shows Bolshevikism without the mask. And basically it's portraying the Soviets in a very negative way, showing the Soviets as being cunning and killing. Again, you see this evil image in the picture, murder. This one portrays Jewish people in a negative way. Remember, Hitler was very anti-Jewish, and so he basically equates the Jewish people to sucking locusts. So basically bugs, vermins, very negative portrayal. Other Nazi propaganda focused on a more positive side of things. This one, hanging outside the Reichstag, suggested that if you signed up for the war for 4 more years, you could make Germany great again. And this one sort of shows the war in a much different light, especially later on in the war when it became obvious that Hitler couldn't really improve more wages because all the money was going to the war effort. The one thing he did try to do was make life better for many Germans, and this was trying to make workers satisfied, showing them that you could get a new car, you could get a new automobile if you work hard enough at it. So now let's take a look at some Nazi propaganda. So we see, again, the Nazis being portrayed as very strong and of strength and superiority to everybody else in that cartoon. Now on a lighter note, let's take a look at an American cartoon, Bugs Bunny, one called Any Bonds, which was designed to sell war bonds.
The tall man with a high hat and a whiskers on his chin will soon be knocking at your door, and you ought to be in. The tall man with the high hat will be coming down your way. Get your savings out when you hear him shout, Any bonds today? Come on and get 'em, folks. Come on, skip right up and get 'em. Any bonds today? Bonds of freedom, that's what I'm selling. Any bonds today? Scrape up the most you can. Here comes the freedom man, asking you to buy your share of freedom today. Many stamps today, gift kiddies. We'll be blessed if we all invest in the USA. Sammy, my Uncle Sammy.
Here comes the freedom man.
Can't make tomorrow's plan.
Not unless you buy a share of freedom today. Any stamps, any bonds today.
As you can see, that one was a little bit more happy and upbeat and showed the patriotism of being an American. Now we'll take a look at a little bit of Japanese propaganda. This one's showing harmony between Japan, China, and Manchuria. Of course, there was hardly harmony or peace between them. We know what happened with the invasion of Nanking, the rape of Nanking. We know what happened in that. But still, Japan wanted to at least try to convince the people that they were out to seek peace. Notice the dove in the background, universal sign of peace. Not really peace that they actually got, but they were at least aiming towards it. This one says, let's win the Greater East Asia War, and goes on to explain why it's important to get involved in spreading the Japanese sphere of influence across most of East Asia. This one is a propaganda book, and you could read the entire book, and it shows cartoons basically vilifying the British, vilifying the American imperialism, and showing the necessity of Japan to fight back to protect herself. Of course, that's not exactly what was going on, but still look at the cartoons, and I think you'll find it interesting to see the way the Japanese portrayed the British and the Americans. This one shows the submarine heroes who died in the Pearl Harbor attack. So these were those who were in the midget subs, just using their death as a way to promote patriotism within Japan. And this one shows the success of Pearl Harbor. The Japanese, well, in the long run, Pearl Harbor ended up being a bad deal for them because it dragged America into the war. It awoke the sleeping giant. It angered us and made us want to fight even more. Early on, the Japanese used their huge success in at least sinking tons of ships and really knocking out the harbor for the better part of a year, year and a half until we were able to rebuild. The Japanese used that as a sign of pride, and a lot of propaganda stemmed from the attack on Pearl Harbor. Ironically, today, if you were to talk to somebody in Japan about the Pearl Harbor attacks, they either wouldn't know what you were talking about or they at least don't focus on it very much. Japanese schools today try to avoid talking anything about Japanese war success. The only thing they really focus on in World War II today is peace and what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Not even anger for Americans, but just more of a sense of let's try to create peace. Let's try to make sure this never happens again. This one shows the cherry blossoms on Mount Fuji, a symbol of a heroic death. This would have been from the later parts of the war, indicating that if you die for Japan, you die for your country, you are dying for a just cause. And then the Japanese had their fair share of propaganda cartoons as well. This one is called Evil Mickey, and you can see this was done in 1936 before World War II started, but when the Japanese invaded Manchuria, and the Americans responded by putting an embargo on most war materials, Japan wasn't really too thrilled, and they were already starting to get angry about what the United States was doing, and so you can see this cartoon that they did, Evil Mickey. Even if you don't read Japanese, which I don't, you can get the themes and the tones of the American hero Mickey Mouse and how he's portrayed by the Japanese.
かくかくかようの通りで。何卒お助けくだされませ。
オーケー。
So as you can see, even Mickey Mouse can be a villain. Of course, this wasn't endorsed by Disney. Disney did not help create this or make this. The Japanese basically ripped off the image of Disney and made Mickey out to be evil. The Japanese also did a number of non-cartoons as propaganda, showing the success that they had in battle, as well as some of the things that they were fighting against. So this looks at the attack in the Philippines.
Ito ang maigpit na pagsalakay sa bataan ng mga sundalong Hapon. Ang mga sundalo ng Estados Unidos ng Amerika ay hindi malaman kung saan tatakbo. At sa ganito ay naiiwan nila ang mga bala ng machine gun at ang mga dinamita. Dumating din ang mga representantes ng Propaganda Corps ng Japanese Imperial Army upang sabihin sa mga sundalong Pilipino na hindi sila ang tunay na kalaban ng mga Hapon kung hindi ang mga Amerikano. Parada ng Japanese Imperial Army sa Maynila ay nagpakita sa atin ng kalakasan ng kanilang kwerpo militar. Ang libo-libong truck, bisikleta at tangke ay hinangaan ng mga nakapanood. Gayon din ang malulusog ng mga katawan ng sundalong Hapones.
So just as the American military likes to highlight our successes and show how awesome we do when we win in battle, the Japanese were trying to do the same thing in the Philippines. They also, as you saw, sent in propaganda people to try to brainwash the Filipino people into thinking that the Japanese were going to be their saviors and their heroes. Of course, they were not. The next one we're going to look at is a more lighthearted cartoon called Ductators. As you guessed, it's